Welcome back, everybody, to Rainbow Six NAL. We have a podcast sensation, analyst Pengu, with us now. You can see because he's got the analyst jacket on, so we know he's an analyst. Thanks for joining us. How was the last map? You watched that one?
I saw a little bit because I had to jump in the makeup chair super quick to get ready for this. So I only saw a couple of rounds, but I saw Canadian of all players really having a great game, finding multiple kills, fragging it out. And that's something we talk about Canadian where normally that's not the case. And also, I walked out of the makeup room and then I see DC1 and I was like, that's crazy, because that's not what I expected. I actually,
nobody expected that.
I put my vote on OXG and then OXG lost, so that's my bad.
We're all in shambles right now, trust me.
It happens.
It's not great.
Let's check out the standings real quick as we talk a little bit more about that, because DZ winning does kind of shake things up a little bit.
It does.
Suddenly, Oxygen status is not as guaranteed as it was before, and Dark Zero make it a pretty strong late run.
Don't really think there's much cause to be concerned about OXG's placement for the minute, just because they still do have 17 points. They're right up there with Astralis right now, and they're not about to get knocked down, because the minimum threshold for qualification for a 10-team league, if we use Europe as an example, is right around 12 to 14 points. They've already got 17. If they were to make 20, that's kind of a guarantee. It would have been a guarantee that they qualify, but they're still sitting pretty. For Dark Zero's case, they're really, really hoping that SSG drop this map to the Soniqs in order to progress further.
I mean, that's it, right? Because I believe if Soniqs is able to beat Spacestation today, they will make sure Spacestation is not going to the major.
Yeah.
So, you know, Super and Co have a chance of being like, all right, if we're not going, you're not going either. So they could really play spoiler today.
They could, and they had that same opportunity last night or yesterday against OXG as well, right? Where if Soniqs, you know, they make the upset, all of a sudden other teams have a way less chance of going to the major. So yeah, Soniqs, they can't really play for themselves except for, you know, cookie points, but they can kind of have a say in who gets to qualify, who gets to stay home.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I still don't see a world in which the Soniqs finish in 9th or 10th place. Like, I still think they're a better team than that, so maybe they can creep up a little bit. And if they beat SSG today, they're certainly on their way to doing that. They at least eke out with some SI points, but we'll see if that holds true today.
Yeah, I mean, that would be nuts, because then seeing TSM drop down to like the bottom two, going from winning SI to not getting any SI points at all in the next stage, that's kind of crazy. But let's go ahead and talk about Soniqs a little bit more as we get ready for this next series. Soniqs, of course, the team that won NAL last year, but this year has been a struggle, to say the least, really.
So far. I still think there's hope for Soniqs. I think, you know, before the season started, before the stage started, Super said, if this is the roster that we start with, this is the roster that we end with as well. So they play the long game, right? So sure, they have had a weak stage 1 so far. I think there's light at the end of the tunnel for stage 2, possibly stage 3, but yeah, the run right now is not going to look much better than what it is right now.
No, yeah, we talked about it earlier. It's not that the Soniqs are a team that are just going to kind of lay down and die. I do think that because they do have the same issue as TSM, where they were in Stockholm literally up until the very last weekend of the tournament, they had so much time spent in a foreign country, then had to come back, find a way to refocus and recenter themselves. We've talked about the weight of expectations also being there early, because they didn't have any of that last year, and then they suddenly come in, top 6 at SI, come to the stage, and now they're performing at a level that no one thought they would. Maybe they're looking like the old United team in a way, in some circumstances. However, they still do look like the complete package. They took a very, very hardened team in Oxygen all the way to 7-5 yesterday on Border. It felt like a lot of the old Soniqs consistencies in some ways were still there, but that's also kind of a problem, because they're the team that tries the same thing on defense over and over again, making very, very small adjustments every time. And if it doesn't work, then what are you going to do? That seems to be like their overall biggest deficiency, is if they can't make a defensive adaptation, then they just keep on getting slapped because they don't know how to adjust to attack or repick. They're getting more into a groove with it, but I do feel like this stage for them was kind of a wash because of that.
I also feel like the game they had yesterday against OXG was actually Soniqs playing well individually as a team.
Yeah.
But the problem-solving skills, which kind of relies on Super as the IGL, as the leader of the team, that's kind of where they fell short. And when we look at Soniqs last year and at Invitationals, it was their big brain strategies that kind of carried them forward, with the likes of Grixer on the intro, getting a lot of opening kills. And now we're seeing a little bit less opening kills, a little bit less aggression from Soniqs, but also Super running out of strats, not looking as clean on that strategical element as he did last season.
The thing that I don't want is for the Soniqs to suddenly run out of strats, is one way to put it, but we also have several teams in the NAL who quite literally have not had this and this composition before, like the XSET, the Beast Coast, the current Parabellum in some ways. So they're coming in and not having VODs or a whole bunch of stuff to review on some of the new squads, and against existing teams, they're just falling short of the they're not jumping over the hurdle, they're jumping into it and kicking it down, and that's slowing them down in the race to a point where they're almost in 9th and 10th place. So that kind of adaptation is something that they can't really do if like VODs don't exist on teams that are this new in the league, that are doing this well and being that unpredictable. So it's kind of a combination of things for the Sonics to find themselves in this spot right now.
It was encouraging though yesterday, again because of the things you mentioned, but also with the individual performances. Players like Grixer on your screen right now, finally starting to put up some pretty decent numbers. You need to be that total package. You need to have the individual performances plus the team performance. That hasn't quite come together totally for them yet, but we're getting there. We are getting there. So
we are. I want to say we always talk about Grixer being like the player of Sonics, but it was actually Canton yesterday together with Grixer as well, who had like some phenomenal rounds or phenomenal situations in the game. And as long as someone from Sonics is having a great performance, I always believe that they have a really good chance to beat teams. But against the likes of SSG, who has 5 very capable players, you might need more than a single element from Sonics to like shake that up.
Exactly. Well, speaking of Space Station Gaming, as we finish seeing Sonics getting ready for the next map, Space Station Gaming, in a very similar situation in some ways to where we found Dark Zero last map, where they need to win today. They need to win to keep their hopes alive for the major. Theoretically, on paper, not as strong of his opponent as Oxygen, certainly.
Right.
But again, with what we've seen recently from Sonics, an opponent that certainly needs to be taken seriously. Skies had a pretty great day yesterday, if I recall correctly, but Space Station needs to have a banger day as a team, win decisively if they want to have a chance to move on.
Yeah, that game against Parabellum yesterday was the definition of a decisive win, to a point where Hot and Cold after the game tweeted, "Dude, my teammates are goats. I hardly had to do anything." And he's absolutely right. They played lights out. Rampy had like a 1.35 rating, almost like double-digit kills in a cafe match where it just felt like it was the same rehash of how they beat OXG, but done to a T, and Parabellum making a whole bunch of mistakes that you kind of expect from a team that hasn't had a whole bunch of tier 1 caliber play up until this point.
Sure.
But now Space Station find themselves in a very interesting spot, because obviously the Sonics have proven that they're not a gimme game anymore. It's not just going to be like a free 3 points. They're kind of finding a groove, as it were. And it's kind of the worst time for Space Station to run into it. Like a dangerous team like SQ, we touted this game at the beginning of the stage as being probably one of the most entertaining, and now it is for different reasons, because the Sonics can play spoiler to SSG's chances to qualify for the major. They find themselves in 5th place right now, 14 points. Dark Zero, with their victory, now catapult themselves into 4th place with just 1 point more. So if Space Station can't get any points in this game, not only do they stay out of the top 4, but their chances for qualifying for Charlotte go down drastically. So we really need to see them have a good game today.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the people that they're going to be relying on is a player that performed very well yesterday, Skies. We've got some stats to look at for his performance, and this is another player that started to kind of stand out on Space Station at a time when they really do need some standout performances.
Absolutely, and I want to correct you, Thoa, because Skies didn't just have a good game yesterday, the last 2 days or 3 days. Skies across the entire season so far has had a phenomenal time.
It's been solid. It's been very solid.
Yes, but yeah, the last 3 games in particular, on your screen, you see some stats here. KD, 30 to 20, so a +10. Entry, he is 1 and 2, so he's -1. That's not a huge deal, because Skies is not an entry player, and sometimes you die early, sometimes you get kills early, but Skies has been allowed to play this flank watch position for SSG now, instead of playing that more laid-back supportive role, and this is giving SSG and Skies himself so much more flexibility and proactivity for his team that I think in the previous flank watch of Thinking Nate, for example, didn't really offer that. So I think SSG gets rounded up more, and I think, as you mentioned as well, Rampy really being that spearhead for the team, it makes them a full package.
Well, we are going to see where the full package is going to go in just a moment as we finish seeing Space Station get ready, because I've just received word that the maps have been decided. We know we will find out soon where we're going to go. The bands are in. It's not going to be Cafe, but where are we going to go?
It's the Sonics, man. If it's ever Cafe, that's a problem. So
Sure.
That one's to be expected. I do think the Sonics probably need to take out a couple of their own permaban maps, because they do have a couple. Like, they've 100%ed so far Cafe and Theme Park. I think actually one time there was another team that banned Cafe against them because they didn't like it as much. However, it does mean that because there are some maps that the Sonics have just said, we don't like. Like, at no point are we ever going to play these things. It does make me think maybe SSG have more control in the map ban phase to go to a map they might want to go to instead.
I certainly like SSG banning out the Orkan, right? Because if you're going to fight against Sonics, who's not looking too hot right now, you don't want like a super simple default map where you can't do a lot of flexibility. So great ban from them.
Clubhouse off the board next. I like that SSG are kind of like saving that one for later if they really wanted to, because again, that's still Dubhouse at the ADA side. That same trend persisted for them overall. No border for the Soniqs. Again, that's been a map that so far they've not really liked that much. They've played it one time and they're usually willing to ban it out more often than not. And the one time they played it, they lost it. Interesting that SSG is banning Bank. They're 2-1 on it so far in the stage. Last time they played it, they did get upset by Beast Coast, so they're just, again, probably more defaults that you don't really want to play into there if you're SSG.
So that leaves us in an interesting position. Okay, so there's the Villa ban from Soniqs.
There we go,
I actually like this from Soniqs. I think Villa is a stable map of SSGs. The way that they're so clutch at playing, like the 2 versus 2s, the 3 versus 3s, and a map like Villa often comes down to those specific situations. And that leaves, what, 2 maps left at this point?
Chalet and Skyscraper?
Chalet and Skyscraper.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm SSG and I'm banning next, I would ban the Skyscraper, even though we know Soniqs don't look amazing on it. I think you want the flexibility of Chalet, you want the openness, you want to be able to pick an attack or repick on the attacking side if you're SSG and get more like flexibility, if you will.
That's right. Well, we know where we're going. It's going to be Chalet. One thing remains, though. We need to get our predictions in from our casters, from our analysts, from our casting analysts, from our analyst casters. Everybody needs a coin, needs to predict something. It's time to find out what our casters have to say. Blues, Stokes, have you made up your minds yet? This one's a little bit tricky, I think, with Soniqs playing the way they have lately, leaning Space Station, but are you going to pick them?
Stokes, I'll leave this one to you first. Where do you think this one's going?
It's to the moon for me.
Wow.
It's to the moon
responsibility, John.
All right.
I don't know where we go from this point. Don't take it back.
No. You got to pick. That's the rules.
I've tried to get around this, Sam. You can't. You have to choose a team.
True.
Tries to
if
avoid
he's
picking every
saying
single
that,
time,
you
pretty
can't
much.
not
Like,
pick.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Come on,
That's fair. That's fair. You got me there. You know what? I'm gonna have to take a trip to the moon. It's Space Station gaming all day. I think that they take it up against the Soniqs.
It wouldn't be a Space Station if it's on the moon, though. Then it'd be a moon base.
True. You got me there.
He's got you.
there.
Yeah. Can't escape English, Sam. Sorry.
It's going to be the same exact result for me. I think Space Station's taking this one. Once again, I do think we've got a couple of very close matches. You know, the last one was very close. This one I think is going to be the same, but I think this match means too much to Space Station with the playoff contention coming in, or the major contention coming in, and I think they're going to take this one.
All right, 2 for Space Station. My analyst, Jacob, what do you think?
I hate to be the contrarian, but I'm actually going to be. I think this
Really?
is a Soniqs game.
Wow.
For one very particular reason.
Okay.
The one time that we saw this map get dropped by the Soniqs, they had an undefeated streak on this map from stage 3 up until the beginning of the stage, dropped it one time to Parabellum, and I do think because they're kind of on the comeback a little bit over these past couple of weeks, if there's upset potential, I think Space Station, like you mentioned yesterday, can kind of stoop down to the level of their opponent. I think there's actually a very good chance that Soniqs take this because we're going to Chalet.
Fair enough. All right, analyst Pengu, real quick, what do you got?
I think Jacob did all the talking. I'll just keep it simple. SSG victory.
All right, there you go. Space Station
What the
victory.
heck?
That leaves only the coin remaining. It's going to be heads, Soniqs, tails, Space Station. Let's see what it's going to be. Oh, I almost dropped it that time. Tails going for Space Station. All right, the coin going with logic. No spicy takes from the coin
I'm about
yet today.
to like go up the pack here if this one's correct.
It was only the first time, though. We did have that upset.
Oh, whatever.
Community poll. Let's check out what question you have to answer while this game is going on. Will Super be the 6th major gatekeeper, or will Bosco keep this title?
Oh, actually, I like this
That's
one.
interesting.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one to mull over. All right, well, the players are ready, so we don't want to take any more time. We're going to send it right back over to our casters for this map. Take it away. Should be a good one.
Thank you very much, Doa, and it's time, ladies and gentlemen, to get ready for the second matchup of the day here. Just like our first one, bound to be a very good one, and more importantly, a very close one. We've got the Soniqs, who obviously have been struggling quite a bit here inside of the stage, starting to rebound a bit on their later games, going up against Space Station, who has had a fairly solid run so far in Stage 1, but that's in contrast to other teams who have had a booming start to it, and that's left them almost outside of the top 4, potentially. They've got to fight for their spot going to the major, and we're going to have to wait and see if they can find another victory here today versus the Soniqs to try and lock that in. Stokes, let's get your opening thoughts on this matchup now, as we're just a few seconds away from starting the map.
I think that this one's going to be fiery, John. We're headed to Chalet, and not only that, but we've had a reinforced Soniqs ready for war yet again, and seeing if they can possibly get one over on Space Station Gaming. I love the map choice here. I'm excited to see it, and luckily enough, we don't have to wait very long to get into the action.
Let's dive right in, ladies and gentlemen. SSG is going to have the first and final bans. We're going to see the first one coming up pretty much as soon as we get it on your screen there, and there it is. It's going to be Nook once again getting knocked out. Her ban rate actually kind of skyrocketing here, at least inside of the NAL. We've been seeing her knocked out more and more on these specific maps. It's the second time today she's been banned, in fact.
Yeah, anytime that somebody can get sneaky and try and get a counter angle or maybe just possibly a flank, she's always a fantastic choice, especially since she does have those frag grenades along for the ride as well. So past that, though, Thatcher will be removed from the Soniqs, and they're looking to see Valkyrie out for the count on the defensive side.
Soniqs seem to be prioritizing removing the intel ops in correspondence to some other choices on the utility side of things. Utility bans aren't going to necessarily be absolutely necessary here, but this is an interesting one. Rooney oftentimes picked over some of the other mitigators because of the specific angles she can block out, and oftentimes boost those extended positions, especially upstairs where we see that fairly commonly played. So that's actually a pretty targeted pick there against some of these team strategies that should work out pretty effectively. Just unfortunately not going to be noticed immediately probably by you guys. It's a little more nuanced.
And she's a really strong option for really any site that you want to bring her to, not only because she has the laser gates, but also because she has soft destruction with the ability to punch through walls and hatches and things like that, as well as she has the EBR DMR, which is a great gun that we've seen used time and time again to deal some serious damage to the offensive side. So nobody will have access to that as SSG begins setting up Chalet for the very first time.
We're going to see a Thunderbird come out to play. Hot and Cold will be throwing down those Kona stations now, and kind of as you'd expect here, it's going to be used to boost the extended positions, hopefully allow these players, whether they're behind the library wall or in the support position by the connector, to stay in those spots for a little bit longer. If they take an initial fight, it doesn't go amazingly cool. They can get that extra health boost, get themselves back in fighting shape, and maybe stick around for an additional 30 seconds or so to waste away, in this case, the Soniqs time bank, and disallow them from entering the site.
The Soniqs out now. We'll look into the lineup and see what they have to enact themselves upon this defensive setup. And they really have everything that they could really want to in this position, especially given the circumstance of attacker repick. That's made that a lot easier to do over time now with Siege. And like I was saying before, they'll have everything in order to open up the top floor here. They're really looking to try and deal with Rampy's positioning as well as Foltz. These are two hallmarks of this setup here, but they actually have an extra cog in the mix, and it's actually going to be Skies inside of the small square room here just attached to the library area. So a lot of assistance for Spacestation on the top floor.
Lots of utility being deployed in here as well from the attackers to try and bleed out that support here. Seeing Foltz has to just crawl his way down the hatch as there's way too many nades coming in. More importantly, way too many players from the Soniqs on those windows surrounding him. Doesn't want to take a chance of getting his head cut off, so he falls back. Meanwhile, Grixer is working on sneaking his way in from the other side down Piano Hallway, already reaching the end of it, and now looking to try and see how he might be able to insert himself in. He's got Rampy and Skies around the corner. Foltz playing a support position at the top of blue stairs, watching out for him specifically, so this isn't exactly an easy push for him to try and make. Lots of options, and more importantly, lots of ways this could go wrong as Rexon just annoys one of his opponents there with the Twitch drone before hopping in himself to go for this entry. Forward he goes, and they're not even expecting it. Gets the first one for free. The Tracers act as a bit of a warning here so that he doesn't get tripped up by the second trade coming in. Skies also going to fall, so things continue to look awesome for the Soniqs here. So far, two uninterrupted kills before Bosco finally gets a trade back with the Nitro Cell. We go into a 4v3.
Not the frag out for Soniqs as they've done the damage to the top floor setup that they were looking to try and do early on. It was a slight adjustment with kind of a different take as a lot of SSG's initial thoughts were headed towards the library, but Soniqs were able to find a gap over on the Ego balcony side, able to hop inside, deal with the initial player, and also pressure back the rest of SSG, also taking down Skies in the process. So be happy about the situation that they found themselves in, but Hot and Cold could play spoils here as well.
Cold continuing to sit back, waiting oh so patiently. The timing
Foltz is here too.
This is Foltz. He's going to try to swing in, but he's immediately shut down. SSG seem to be fulfilling their own fate, but maybe Houghton can save the day. He's picked up one, and now a second is found as Yeti. Also dropped to the deck here. Super and Grixer needing to make up the difference now. They do have downstairs control, and they found the only other defender still alive, so everything is truly going to fall to Houghton inside of what is now a 1v2. It would basically be a 1v4 for him if he's able to pull it off here, but let's see if he can get the job done. 15 seconds seconds is all he needs to lay out here. Just prevent the plant, and he can win through that avenue as well. But Super, he's already found a secure plant spot, more than likely not going to get interrupted unless Hot and Full commits to this, but only Grixer to do so instead, and the Soniqs pick up the round.
And this is the Soniqs that we have expected this entire stage, this play style that they've been able to find throughout the history of this squad. They found it yet again. Looks like they're able to actually fire on all cylinders as much as we talk about that. So for the Soniqs now, have to be happy with how that round went, especially with the mid-round adjustment that Super more than likely enacted with his shot calling. They got their player inside a piano, able to make that serious play off the balcony like we talked about before. And past that, it was really up to Hot and Cold to try and end that round for the Soniqs, and he just couldn't get enough done. It was mostly not his fault. It really just came down to the lone player of SSG downstairs that died in a very unfortunate gunfight.
Unfortunately, that Library hold not putting in the effort they thought it would to fend off the attacks from the Soniqs there. In fact, to some extent, that hold bolsters the Soniqs' own strength as they're able to turn it against SSG, kind of lock them inside of those Library positions, and in a lot of cases even prevent the fallback through the hatch. We saw Skies make his way to that as he was holding the initial top corner position, but failed to do anything else throughout the rest of the round, and the same can be said for the remaining players that continue to hold upstairs through that advanced 2 minutes or so of the round as well. So things continuing to look good for the Soniqs, despite having to go up against a very tough setup to break. And now we wait and see if they can pull it off a second time, as we're going to see a similar setup deployed over here towards the Library, but now it's to defend the kitchen site instead of the one immediately below it.
And Chalet doesn't really have very many areas that the offense likes to try and work their way in initially. Library is usually the hot spot for the offensive take, and they'll usually try and counter things with balcony, just trying to make sure that nobody's playing inside of the Library balcony area, because that's always a hot spot to be punished by any of the defensive players. So for Soniqs, it's looking very similar to what they did the last round, but as you said, John, it's not going to all break down the same way given the site circumstance.
It's continuing to go somewhat passively, but
Rexon
at the same time in the middle of a duel, and not only is he going to be able to win one, but Kansan picks up a second entry for the Soniqs too. Skies does trade it back in a different battle, as you can see over here by the main stairs. He's going to be able to find Yeti and somewhat equalize these numbers. Still an advantage for the Soniqs though at a 4v3 as the first minute has now elapsed, and we potentially got another duel brewing there. You can see Hot and close to a lineup against Kansan, but they're going to have to advance into the correct hallway to really and truly meet each other over these next few moments.
So much time for the Soniqs, and they are going to take it. Attempt to find where the rest of these SSG members could possibly be. Rexon will be on drone for the time being, trying to suss things out inside of piano. Grixer on Eagle balcony will begin challenging the office door. Not too many SSG members currently home, just trying to play these angles safely and pre-fire common angles to see if Soniqs would potentially be standing inside of those. But nothing's been discovered just yet. This top floor is starting to fall to pieces as Hot and Cold is forced back to Solarium. Skies is looking for a flank up the main stairs though, and this is looking like it has a lot of potential.
SSG trying to
Oh, no.
trying to commit to a fine dance right now of not getting too aggressive while also not leaving themselves too far in the dark from an intel perspective. Kansan, though, unfortunately for SSG, grabs another member of their squad, and a second is also found here by Rex, and Fultz, who is trying his hardest to line up some type of late-round flank through the upstairs portions of the map, is just not going to be able to make it happen here. He's now the lone warrior here in a 1v4. Doesn't even have the capability to stop the diffuser from going down. Super will get yet another plant, and the Soniqs are looking like they'll have a clean 2-0 lead here over the next few moments, unless Fultz is able to go absolutely crazy, and yeah, just not going to happen here. Grixer with one finalizing kill, and it's a 2-0 lead for the Soniqs.
Now I'm starting to get interested on when we're going to see attack timeout from SSG. Not to say call it right now, but it wouldn't exactly be the worst thing to call it in the current moment, only because the Soniqs are really starting to heat up, and they haven't had this kind of momentum the entire stage. So the fact that they're starting to get it so early on here on Chalet, this could get pretty worrisome at a certain point.
I think the problem for SSG is going to be recognizing how far behind they are in these rounds. We can see it because we're constantly looking at a top-down view and realizing that, like, okay, yeah, the members of SSG are like trading, but they're not really getting anything from those trades. It's still the Soniqs like proceeding onward, getting closer and closer to the site. There's nothing being denied in these trades like positionally. So SSG, the problem is they're probably only seeing the trade part and being like, okay, we're close, guys. We're almost there. We just need to push this over the edge a little bit more. And I think it's going to take a few more rounds for them to realize just how far behind they may truly be.
Well, that's 2 times in a row that the Soniqs have straight up scooped SSG out of their own site. You know, you have all of these players on extended holds trying to play for map control, but where the map control actually matters is back home. And every time Soniqs has been able to punish them thus far. So we'll see if that continues on, but we'll have to find out after round 3. And luckily enough, it starts just now. The Soniqs set up for their overall lineup here. Kansan will continue to bring the line. Rexon back on the Twitch as well. Saw him play pretty aggressively upstairs inside of Library for one of the opening kills that Soniqs were able to procure.
Few repicks were used by the Soniqs as well, so they've custom built the lineup to be able to properly assault this site. It's still going to be that usual dynamic duo over here by Library. However, of both Rampy and Skies trying to fend off the initial clear. Rampy realizes that there's going to be a Twitch drone jumping its way around to gather intel, and he nicely grabs it out of the air. But at the same time, there's going to be a late mirror window placed here by Hot and Cold to fend off some of these entry angles from the inside of Office, and that'll be very, very useful for SSG, and a bit of a surprise for the Soniqs, but at the same time, you can see that from Super, another player's POV, they've got a very sneaky drone hidden out here in Office, so they'll know exactly when, and more importantly, where that mirror is looking to strike from.
So much time for both of these teams. Hot and Cold bearing down on Eagle Balcony, but so much damage now dealt to him from, I believe, underneath via a frag grenade. Down to 1 bullet's worth of HP. He's going to try and play out his life for the remainder of this round. For the Soniqs, the drone economy is looking quite solid at the current moment. They'll continually be able to gather that information that they so desperately need, especially at the current moment. I mean, they know where Rampy is, but past that, there's not too much of the plot that they really know all that much about. But they've found Hot and Cold. Luckily enough, Foltz will be able to trade it back onto Yeti. Some nice angles being adopted here inside of Library as well for Rexon, trying to cut off some of these rotations, but currently nobody home downstairs as the Soniqs look to push things further.
Rexon looking to potentially open up a pathway over towards top blue stairs, but Super going to be found by Skies instead, knocking out the hard breach, immediately seeing it refragged by Rexon, though, downing Rampy and knocking out the Wamai. No more of those magnets to be deployed in a later portion of the round here, meaning they're going to be limited in terms of their mitigation. At the same time, though, SSG still with good control over the map. They're still in the fight in a very big way, especially with that case being down on the ground. I remember the Soniqs already working on retrieving it, however, but also, once again, so many counteracting points here. SSG has so much presence inside of the Office area that's going to be tough for the Soniqs to still justify any type of push forward and into the actual site. And we'll see exactly why as one of them tries to sneak into Library. But look at this. 2 kills going in the favor of the Soniqs. Just the confirmation coming back at SSG. That does still put the pressure on the Foltz here. A very winnable 1v2 deployed before him. He's going to have to try and isolate out where these 2 players are. And good pacing here coming from Foltz. Stops exactly when he would have potentially revealed himself if he full committed to this swing. So playing it very, very cautiously right now. But the plant commitment going down still. Foltz is going to be able to find Rexon despite that very cheeky spot behind the piano. Can he deny this plant, though? No, he won't, but immediately knocks the head off of Kansan when he peeks. It's a quad from Foltz and a clutch as well. SSG finally gets themselves on the board.
A great round there from Foltz, and that looked extremely terrifying. I mean, we have the Twitch enter piano and immediately go down, but then the Finka gets them back up instantaneously with the adrenal surge, and then all of a sudden, for a certain moment there, you have a 3 versus 1, and that's never really going to go in your favor when you're trying to fight 2 different angles while somebody's trying to put the case down. But fortunately enough for SSG and fortunately enough for Foltz, he was able to procure that initial kill and then move past and able to take down a lot of pretty cheeky positions, especially coming out from Rexon with him prone behind the piano. That was going to be a hard one to find, and he was still able to get it done.
So it's a basement hold on deck now for SSG, finally finding their strength and more of an ability to just kind of stalemate out the push from the Soniqs. Seemed like there wasn't really a whole lot that was stopping them on the first 2 rounds, but this time SSG able to use their positions a lot more appropriately to try and slow down that assault and ultimately not leave the Soniqs with enough clearance to get them a safe plan as they had been doing for the previous 2 rounds. So first successful denial out from our defenders. Time to see if they can do it again on another new site, another new piece of territory for them. Once again, continually shifting around the site. Chalet is a map where most teams are going to feel relatively comfortable, assuming they have the experience on it to play all 4 sites, so we'll continue to see SSG do so as they now head to the final one they've yet to play, which of course is here on the bottom floor.
Well, all right, Soniqs, are you able to get back on the train? They were chugging along there for a bit, able to link 2 cars back to back, procure these 2 rounds, but now they need to find their 3rd and continue this dominant streak on their offensive side as Chalet tends to lead that way. Hot and Cold will be back in a very favorable position for Space Station Gaming to oversee what happens with Library. As for the rest of Space Station, there'll be a couple of members upstairs. Foltz will be holding things down inside of Office, but as for Rampy, and I believe one more member of SSG, they'll be back inside of Site, trying to hold things down. Well, actually, no, it's not even Kitchen as the site, so pardon my French. It is indeed the basement. So he's actually over here by himself on the extended hold, but now we got some problems in a fight that he really needs to win. Unfortunately enough for him, he's not able to tag up the Twitch of Rexen at all. Rampy instead taking a lot of damage.
Rampy actually going to get caught trying to transition to a safer position as well. Grixer isolating him out, finding the angle needed to eliminate him. This is an area where the Sonics have been consistently excelling so far in this game, is catching the members of SSG as soon as they shift out of their little safety boxes. More often than not, the Sonics have been able to grab those players mid-rotate. So some good intel play on the Sonics to constantly capitalize on that, like we just saw with Rampy. Foltz may potentially become the next victim, but he could also become the attacker here if he's able to go unnoticed on that top floor positioning.
I believe he will for some time. There's really no reason as to the Sonics, droning this. There's nothing that he's done to where they should be aware of that situation. Probably avoided the earlier clear, and he's going to be able to make good on it now, and boy, does he ever have to. Hot and Cold's going to go down. It's a 3 versus 5, and now Foltz, with a lot of work to do, drops into Kitchen. Knows that somebody's more than likely around the space, and Kansan will handle that properly. The M590 rips a hole in the wall, and he'll rip a hole in his head. Sonics bounce back. It's a 5-1 here. Skies has to try and win this out from a terrible position. On the back end of Wine, he'll get gunned down, and it's a flawless round from the Sonics. They're back in the saddle.
Gonna sound like a broken record here, as it's basically the last point I made, but just want to highlight again, man, this is the intel play right now from the Sonics, and as well the general situational awareness of all 5 of their players is really unmatched inside of this specific matchup here. Massive improvement compared to what we were seeing earlier on in the stage, and we are finally going to get that timeout from SSG as well, so we have more time to talk about this. The Sonics just fully aware of every single play, at least in that last round, that SSG were going to make. Most notably, we saw that bedroom drop where another member of the team was trying to contribute after 2 other players had attempted to do so earlier in the round. As soon as he pops open a softball, someone's just hard crosshaired right on top of him there to be able to take him down.
Yeah, it's the struggle bus right now for Space Station. It seems like everything they're doing simply doesn't work, especially for Rampy's sake. He's 0-4 at the current moment. He hasn't found a single thing in this game that has been able to assist his team, and that's more than likely what a lot of this tactical timeout is going to be about, is how do they position themselves to be successful up against Sonics in these next 2 rounds to actually pick up these defenses, because they still have an opportunity to tie this up.
Absolutely the case. 2 more rounds to go. Could be 2 more successful defenses in the cards here. We are going to see them making a return to the kitchen as well for the upcoming round. You guys probably caught a glimpse of that yourself, but you can see it much more clearly, of course, as we are once again in the game and in the server here, trying to take a peek at what exactly Sonics will bring to bear to once again flush out the second floor extension that SSG are more than likely going to deploy towards and slowly but surely work their way into the kitchen hold.
Well, now for Space Station, it's all about the adjustments. We'll see what they can possibly muster here in round 5. We'll have the castle along for the ride with Hot and Cold. Skies and also Foltz switching out a couple of their things as well initially inside of the round. So they'll have Mute and Alibi. So we'll see how that can potentially throw a spanner in the works up against the Sonics. I wish Foltz would have stuck to the pick of Frost, because that's always just a fun one to watch when it comes to Chalet, especially up against a team like the Sonics. I mean, like you were saying, the info game's pretty good, so more than likely wouldn't work out too well, but it's always one of those things that can catch somebody off guard in one of the best moments. So now for SSG, they have to be worried about the Sonics, as they'll be out and about for the 5th time here.
Kansan already popping open the first of that library window. The second one more than likely not going to be too far behind, and there it goes. So all the pressure suddenly on to Bosco to hold this from the connector side, and it seems like the pressure might be boiling up to be a bit too much for him. He's had to back away from it entirely, as it seems like there's just way too many players from the Sonics going to potentially boost themselves into there, and he does not want to fight that much this early on. Could almost certainly lead to his death. They don't want to start on bad footing from 4v5. They need to find some better way to pick up this opening kill.
Well, SSG is going to play this one pretty close to the chest. Foltz will be on a more extended position downstairs towards West Main, with the potential to rotate later on and be the crux of Sonics' attack. So now, Sonics making some solid headway, looking to try and clear out this top floor, the Twitch drone down, and the BP potentially removing this from play for the time being, but hasn't been hit just yet. Frag grenade out, Rexen will be able to avoid the initial shot from the BP. Some more frag grenades that could potentially pick up said Twitch drone, but looks like it's not going to be able to do too much against the SSG members lying in wait.
Bosco continuing to sit back, deploy more of those magnets, just sit in waiting and potentially line up more opportunities to eat up more of the Sonics utility here. Half the round gone, but the Sonics just inches away from the site here, so they have to be very, very close about the potential clear that's going to show up not only on the second floor, but the almost immediate follow-through that that clear will have onto an assault on the site itself here. So SSG need to be ready for action sooner rather than later, and it seems like, however, they've got a good lineup to potentially stop all this from happening. Houghton as well as Bosco fending off the hallway play. They're not going to necessarily have vision into office, however, so this could become problematic as they'll be moving in for free and have the ability to open up top downs. Hot and Cold will find the first response. Bosco here in the meanwhile gets away with a kill, but it's messy, and Houghton adds a second to his own personal counter. Seems like the lineup is good to stop this push from the Sonics, and suddenly they're brought down to only Super and Yeti, having to back away even from their office position as they're just not sure of anything anymore after that recent push from SSG.
SSG's more kill box-centric setup with all of these angles that Sonic have to worry about. It's going to end up bagging them all of the kills they need in order to successfully take the round. But now as Yeti takes down Hot and Cold, there's a very good chance, but Bosco reads Super perfectly. He'll take him down. He knows Yeti has to be in the area, but does he win the next one-on-one? Looks like he's been able to readjust. The drones outside already have him, and rather the ones in the hallway, but he's going to hightail it back to site. There is no reason for him to be around this area when he could just help his teammates. And it's going to be the hold from Fultz at the top of Solarium that will do it here for round 5 as Space Station will take it.
Super unfortunate for Super there as we saw him trying to line up that last kill, but didn't even notice the player hiding up behind the deployable shield. That pretty much seals the deal there. The 2v3, certainly workable, but Yeti not going to be able to get it done all on his own. So Bosco, nice job sneaking away not only that kill, but a few others throughout the course of that round as well between him and Hot and Cold as SSG finally secure a second round. The pause has seemed to have worked out pretty well for this team, so time to see if they can lock in that consistency and give us an outright tie at halftime of 3-3.
And you could seriously see the adjustments in that round like we were talking about. Space Station goes for a much calmer defensive setup where they're able to play off of each other a lot more and try and play for some of these angles where they'll be able to combat Sonic's entry. And it works out handedly, especially with just the plethora of kills that SSG found as they started to apply pressure back inside of the mid-round. You know, around the time that Bosco was able to secure his kill. 3 kills pop off from SSG. So past that, though, last round will be downstairs. Not downstairs. It's actually inside of Bar and Gaming. It'll be on the mid-floor here with SSG worried about Library, as they dang well should be. This is usually the starting grounds for most offensive teams, and more than likely the Sonics will be going about it in very similar fashion to what they have in recent history.
Way fewer rotations required inside of that setup from SSG on the previous round as well, so was able to avoid the pitfall they've been running into with the 4 or so rounds before that. Other players kind of getting caught on fallbacks there. And when they did have to go for them, did them way earlier in that round than previously. We're going to see, though, once again, Sonics quickly surrounding this library setup. Yeti will just pop open the windows here. And then we get in the process of trying to flush Fultz, Skies, and Rampy out of these spots, but that has been the issue here from SSG. They have not been able to maintain these, generally speaking, long enough for them to have impact. What was that?
Oh my God.
The disrespect! He just hops over and knocks out Fultz. To be fair, you know, predictable position. Like, they know he'd have been there because he's played it on 2 other rounds at least. But man, just straight up hop in the window? I never expected that. Goodbye to Fultz, I guess, and now SSG has to work here to make up the difference.
I mean, you got to lock your windows, John. That could happen at any moment in time. What a play there from Kansan. And as you said, it was just great recognition of what usually the default strategy is for this position. And he's able to just quickly make mincemeat of Fultz as he hops that window. A beautiful frag comes in from Yeti. It'll pick up Skies, and the Sonics are well on their way to grabbing this round. The Nitro Cell went outside, John. It went past the man that was sitting in the library and could have died and went outside, unfortunately enough, for Space Station.
I don't think we have collision on that, but I think if we did, it might have actually stuck to his head. It was the way it looked like it was arcing for a second.
You can body block Nitro Cells.
Oh, can you?
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe you could. Okay, so I just missed them then in that case. Grixer either way here, lining up to try and get another one, and nearly gets it through the soft breach. Bosco now at under 50%. Grixer barely damaged here as he's got the adrenal surge. Even more damage on that most recent volley. I'm surprised he hasn't finished it off yet, as Bosco now sits with 5 to 10 HP here, trying to fight for his life, but has been unable to return a single bullet that was sent into him. Rampy and Hot and Cold, at least Rampy still maintaining his upstairs presence. Hot, I think, trying to play between both of those positions as he's over by blue stairs, so still a bit of a tense situation here for the Sonics. Despite the fact that it's a 5v3, they don't have full control over any area outside the library just yet.
And past that, the drone economy is not looking too hot right now. They have 3 drones, actually 2 drones in play, but luckily enough, everything that they've done has hit its mark. They're going to take down Hot and Cold. Rampy gets his very first kill of the game halfway through at the current moment, but he's going to be quickly thwarted by Rexon as he chases his second. Bosco, it's down to be the best in the game, but Rexon will spam the wall of stock, and he will die immediately on impact.
Once again, that last kill really showcasing, once again, the situational awareness of the Sonics, just immediately blind firing in the general area of the remaining players, and as you see, just a random stray bullet is what catches the last player alive on the Sonics, or excuse me, on SSG there. So they're only able to negotiate those 2 defensive rounds in the first half here, which is going to leave them at a pretty serious deficit. However, of course, it is Chalet. This is generally a map where we tend to see the attackers excel quite a bit, so we are on track for that. But now it's the question of what type of strength are Sonics going to bring to the table. How will they leverage their intel game and their situational awareness on the defense to try and thwart SSG's attacks?
That's a really good question. I think the big thing for Sonics, at least initially with the lineup that we're seeing, is that it's going to be pretty roam-centric. They want to try and hold map control and force SSG to take it away from them. And if the Sonics can win out on the engagements that SSG have to give them in those circumstances, then that's a pretty straightforward round past that point. So we'll see what the Sonics are able to do. But the big thing is that this is going to require a solid info game from Spacestation. Oh no, one of the best droners in the entirety of Rainbow Six, to make sure that they have a beat on Rexon, just because of the hatch play and his ability to move around this map like a monkey.
Yeah. For the players at home, they're getting a little worried about SSG. Don't give up on them just yet, as they also bring a world-class attack to the table and shouldn't have too much of an issue picking apart this play from the Sonics. With that said, though, the Sonics certainly impressing us with what we've seen inside of the first half. We couldn't be in for a few surprises on this second half as well. Like you said, Rexon most notably going to be the biggest mobile player here for the Sonics roster on the first round, with that Oryx being able to work himself around not only on a horizontal basis, but on a vertical basis too, due to his access to hatches. Looking like a basement entry for SSG, though. They're going to go in a moment. The drone will spot Yeti, so it'll be a quick clearance of his position here, especially with that garage being open.
Bosco's going to keep a set of 6 after he adds some extra pellets to the right-hand side, just for another little window to be able to assist with some angles towards blue, where Yeti currently resides, just on the other end of the hallway. EE1D out. Yeti's not going to make the move. He'll get droned out yet again here. Goes for the swing in the pre-fire, but might have been ill-advised. Unfortunately enough, Foltz can't make it. Kanson's there. Oh my God! Space Station Gaming, hook, line, and sinker is what Kansan just got there. I mean, dude, he's got to tell me what he's got in that tackle box right there. This man is a fisherman if I have ever seen one.
The tunnel vision from Space Station. 2 different players trying to knock out Yeti and laser focused on it, not even paying attention to what could have rotated down through the main stairs into the snowmobile garage. Excellent play from the Sonics, and once again, their ability to adapt off of intel is unmatched right now inside of this match, as they continue to shut down, in this case, these attacks from SSG here, bringing it down to a 5v3 before we even hit the halfway point on the round.
I mean, I hate to say it, mostly because I hate giving Caliber Jacob compliments, but he might have called it at the right time. This might finally be a great form of the Sonics that we had wished that we got to see this entire stage. But the good news is that they're here now, and they're playing some damn good Siege.
It's even more ironic that he made a good prediction about the Sonics of all teams.
Yeah,
hey, you know.
it's very ironic, John. Don't.
Now you're thinking about it more.
Don't get me to laugh. Okay.
Back on topic. We've got SSG. They're just going to try to hop into the site from the looks of it here. Unfortunately, a Banshee from Malusi will be blocking their way in the corner, so they cancel that plan fairly quickly. The problem, though, is they've already played their hand to an extent just by hopping into the window and activating the Banshee for a split second. So Kansan's here. He's ready to stop it. He's got one.
Oh!
Now another one for the quad on the round. We're going to see Super get knocked out, so a chance still for Kansan to pick up the ace is alive and well. He's got case control also. Everything has fallen to skies, and he's got 25 seconds left to try and make up the difference here. So roll in a flash, try to get himself to a window quickly enough on the recovery, but as you guys can see, it's a long run to getting an access. But he went the wrong way, too. So.
He doesn't even have his hand on his mouse. There we go. No, not anymore. Okay, so yeah, we're just talking about what's going on. This is an active tactical timeout timeout from Spacestation Gaming because Soniqs, they're just getting away with way too much at the current moment. That round right there completely decided by the engagement that went on downstairs. They eventually just had to try and throw things at the site and hope that nobody's watching the double window and bar, which is probably the most watched window of the entirety of that site. So you can see how silly it is at the end of the day, because it's just super unfortunate that things broke down for Spacestation the way that they did down low. It was just a fantastic call from Soniqs, and that is what they've been lacking for a lot of this stage that, once again, we're very happy to see back and fully online.
Kansas, in the meanwhile, there, a massive impact from him. Doesn't end up getting the ace. We can give him like a little silver star or something maybe for his efforts, because he kind of got the ace. It was more just the last member of SSG didn't take a fight, so we never got a chance. Like,
we can't give out participation trophies, John. I'm sorry. This is a competition. I don't know if you knew that.
It was like you know, situational things like that, where it's like
you did a good job, like a little golden sticker.
Yeah,
I'm sure. I'm sure if you talk to a goddess, that she can just add a sticker next to Kansas' name on like the calendar or something like that. I heard if he gets 10 of those, that he actually gets to eat food for once or something like that. I'm just joking. But either way, though, for Space Station, they're about to be out and about here, changing things up across the board. And I know that there's going to be one character that's coming along for the ride, John, that you really want to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be the Amaru pick coming back in. We've already seen her used quite a bit more since Attacker repick was added, but obviously once again making her appearance here. Not the only repick we've seen, though. Overall, it was a bit of a remake of the styling from SSG's attacking lineup here, so I'm curious to see what they're going to try and do. Specifically with Hot and Cold's choice here, obviously he needs to do a bit of drone work. More than likely will be a late entry for himself. Okay, never mind. They're going to go for a quick basement clear again, it seems here, since they don't find anything in the car garage, and that will open up some potential for them to maybe even leap in from down below. I think as our observer was just trying to show us there, dude, was soft hatch being left, well, not open, but soft at least, just below the dining room.
Yeah, it could be the play for Houghton, but the thing that I'm scared about is that there's usually quite a few bodies in this position, so it's going to require a lot from SSG in order to get this done. It works! Goldie's going to get one and immediately get traded. That's what I was worried about, is there's usually a constant amount of players in this area, but it's caused enough chaos that SFG has simply bullied the Soniqs. They take so many bodies, and now they're trying to pull it back from the depths.
It's working. not even necessarily in the way that SSG would have hoped for it to work, but okay. Yeti as well here, trying to throw back some of this action at the members of SSG. He's able to equalize the player count here. That Twitch drone going on immediately being denied, unfortunately, with the position up top. Now locked in a 2v2, and it's probably going to be a very, very tense one at that. Our players are scattered all over the map right now. We still have a minute and a half to play, so this is going to be an eternity for all four of these players.
You guys ever played twos before? That's exactly what's going on right now. And the good news is for SSG is SSG's planting? Question mark? Fultz, how are you in here? Where is the cover on
all the
this?
Upstairs players are left
here. He's holding things down. The split engagement doesn't work out yet. He wins one. Fultz! Oh my, Fultz! He shuts down Yeti, immediately flicks, and takes out the other Soniqs member, and Space Station get away with that round.
That was a crazy round. There was so much stuff happening, and like we said, the Amaru play not even like being the main thing that allows them to win it. It's a distraction that allows their players in, which then that fight is what allows SSG to get control of the site, push us to that 2v2 point where you only have, from what I could tell, the upstairs roam game from Soniqs left alive at that point. They had to then try and rotate back, use those positions to their advantage, but couldn't lock down the proper plant positioning. And as a result of that, SSG able to clutch that one out, keep themselves alive here. More importantly, keep the Soniqs off map point.
Yeah, and also that's one way to keep your opponents guessing, I'm sure. We might just slide up one of your hatches and talk about a funny engagement in between the Maestro and the Amaru as well. As they just
Maestro didn't even know how to react. He was like, wait, what are you doing here?
You're here? And that's the beauty of Attacker Repick and what it's done for Rainbow Six. It's made it to where you can have super interesting lineups like what SSG's have been bringing right now. Yeah, it's not as interesting as the last one, but look at the amount of tools that they've changed out for to make it to where this round is easier for them. That's just something that we've never had in the likes of Rainbow Six Siege. I mean, look at that, John. The entire lineup just switched out for SSG, with Fultz even throwing his hat in the ring and grabbing Flores.
And SSG definitely one of the teams here in North America that's made the strongest use, by a pretty strong case as well, of
they set the bar,
repick.
absolutely.
So,
like
especially
right
in the first few Playdays, they've made by far the most use of it. In my opinion, they're still making the most use of it, but at the same time, I haven't been watching every single match, so there might have been a few snuck past me that I didn't notice yet. I have to do some more research on that. Either way, though, SSG continuing to showcase showcase here in this new meta, that they are not going to fall behind, that they are here to stay at the top of North America as they have been for the past few years here. At the start of this round, it's Grixer trying to lean out towards the windows here, seeing if he can make it lucky, find some intel, or better yet, a bullet or two into one of the members of SSG, but so far no luck in that department.
Yeah, they're taking their time, they're droning out the basement, and they have the potential to find Super here early on inside of Blue, but it would require a lot of effort on their end, and they still have to worry about the roam game, especially of Rexen up top currently, making his way towards Solarium. Trophy could be a hot commodity here in a couple of seconds. Bosco now move downstairs. There's a mute jammer on this wall, so somebody will have to stop that from existing before they're actually able to open up said wall. We'll be looking towards Trench here momentarily as well, more than likely, in order to get that side open. It's going to be a smoke out and a nade to make sure this goes off without a hitch. Bosco applies where needed for burn, and boom, we now have a wall open.
Not only that, but the Rotero drone is going to continue to cycle forward. A good possibility that Super's position gets compromised at some point in the next 30 seconds or so here, with Fultz continuing to bleed out that utility count by using these drones here. Already seeing one go in, and like I said, there we go. Super's position now compromised, and there might even still be one or two more, too. In fact, he's going to keep throwing them in here, making that site setup as weak as humanly possible here. And Houghton as well, chucking in a nade, trying to see if he can shuffle the positions of the Soniqs. Not going to work to a huge extent, but that Rotero drone will do a bit of work here, pushing Kansan further back on the inside of his closet.
And Kansan pretty fortunate with that, and well, you couldn't say the same for Rampy. He gets taken down with an instant flick from Kansan, but fortunately enough for SSG, he hangs his neck out just a little bit too far and loses his life. Soniqs, though, they bounce back quickly. Hot and cold to go down, and a potential trade back and forth here, but lots of utility in hand at the moment as Bosco starting the plant inside of Wine. Still 3 members of SSG up, and there is a huge potential for them to take this post plant.
Absolutely the case, especially with the positionings they're currently playing from Bosco now, with the plant down on the ground, playing security detail here, already knocking out Yeti. They've even the player count down. This peek is going to come in, gets him to spray a bit prematurely, though. He needs support from his teammates here, and he's not going to get it. Grixer pushes forward, takes him down, and now the numbers are back in Sonic's favor, but look at the health pools. Rexen and Grixer taking so much from that fight. Fultz now shooting one of them in the back. Sky is getting a second. Everything falls to Grixer here. He's going to have to be a huge hero for the team, but it won't happen. SSG close the gap just that little bit more, and are now only 1 round away from tying us up at 5-5.
Space Station throwing it all at the side and hoping that Hot and Cold can once again be enough of a distraction for them to get their play to go off without a hitch. And that's exactly what happens. They actually get some control of Wine, able to get the plant down, and SSG, or rather Soniqs, don't have any defensive utility to try and counteract that. There's nothing they can really do in that situation, because if they step up to the plate, SSG has the cross, and they'll lose their life in that process. So have to try and win it out in the post plant, and they simply cannot. As for SSG, they shored up this score line within punching distance now to tie things up here.
Just that one final round as long as SSG need, and they will close the gap in fairly impressive fashion. Meanwhile, for the Soniqs, they too struggling to fend off some of this early aggression we were quite often getting from SSG here. The extended positions just not able to maintain their strength for as long as the Soniqs would like, and on top of some weaker holds inside of the sites themselves, it's been SSG rocketing their way back into the second half here, and potentially into a leading position if things go that much further here. Downstairs hold for the Soniqs first floor. That is, of course, inside of the bar and billiards room, so the usual extension being deployed upstairs into the library now. Still a very mobile composition, though. Of course, we can see the Oryx is back to play for Rexen, and Kansan still going to be playing with the Alibi also here. But Rexen gets the opportunity, just a little too focused on AD-ADing there, not able to line up the actual shot when the player peeks it. So a missed opportunity for Rexen. Very unfortunate for him, as it doesn't seem that member of SSG was expecting that.
Yes, indeed. Could have been the freebie off rip, but apparently not in the card. Space Station Gaming will now begin their clear of the site. Try and see where the entry point will be here. So they haven't even really worked their way in towards the building just yet. Still looking to see where a potential entry point could be. Over towards the library once again is where we go. We'll have some drones come in from this side, and obviously the counter angle from SSG out on the Ego balcony. They'll try and flush these Sonic members out of their positioning and get them into some hot water if the potential actually goes through. Rampy able to find the drone here, or rather the shield here on the balcony with his drone, as they'll be able to get one of Fultz's Rotero drones inside and get rid of this position.
See how much of it's going to take out, and pretty much the entire setup. So very well played here from SSG to get that right where they needed it to. Suddenly, not a lot of support going to be deployed to that exterior library position, and Rampy, beautifully shot here as well, has the pre-fire angle to knock out Super as he tries to take a pixel peek, only his head being revealed, but that's apparently enough for SSG to take him down, and once again, establish the early advantage.
Rexon with a wild swing out of the kitchen window, or rather the bathroom window. He won't find anything, but now Rampy trying to see if potentially any other Sonics members want to take a gamble and swing the window for library. But nothing really happening here as things have slowed down for Space Station Gaming. Not getting too active across the board, just seeing if any of these Sonics members will give up the goods. Past taking down Super, really no action happening, but now Fultz down low. Could actually see him start to work his way up blue stairs and potentially slide in behind the Sonics if he can hit his mark. And have the Capital bolts now come in and an ill-advised hop from Hot and Cold as he tries to get into library, but Kansan's worried about the angle.
If it worked, it would have been amazing because it would have potentially prevented this position from being defendable if he was able to get those incendiaries down, and this would have allowed the players to hop in through the billiards window. But no longer can this be the case. They're going to try and do it through normal frag grenades instead. This will get him off the initial position, but he'll be back immediately to try and stop the bleeding here. Unfortunately, won't be able to do so. Only can down one. His teammate's getting res, but here comes Yeti to save the day as he finishes off the downing of those two players, leaving only Skies in the fight for the 1v3. He, too, now has to move away from his entry point and attempt somewhere else. Wanted to go for the window by the front stairs. Second thoughts on that, though, is he's instead going to run just over towards the big entry point here for Billiard. See if he can make the hop. There's so much Overwatch. You guys can already see it. The silhouette from Yeti shuts down the Sonic, or shuts down Space Station, and the Sonics will move up onto map point.
An impossible round there for Space Station Gaming. The pacing that the Sonics had made it almost impossible for the SSG unit to do anything up against their defensive strategy. They initially try and just enter the site via the window yet again, but who's there to hear the call? Well, it's Kansan all over again to almost get two just like he did the last time, but instead it will be two that were disjointed. He'll get the library player, one hopping the window, lose the gunfight, but he gives the round over to the Sonics in the same breath.
So the Sonics with two opportunities to shut this game down now inside of regulation. It would be a massive win for them, more so in their ability to deny SSG of any potential playoff positioning, more so than anything, but also just help to improve this record, which you guys can see from the top left, it hasn't been great, especially for a team of the Sonics caliber here, proving themselves domestically as the most consistent team inside of the NAL during the 2021 season. And then on top of that, placing top 6, if I remember correctly, at SI.
Indeed.
So,
and Grixer was the highest rated player
True.
at SI.
Another good point there as well. So we expect a bit more than 9th place from the Sonics, but I think that they're maybe finally on the right path if this game is anything to indicate.
6th in the world, 9th place in North America.
I mean, like, it's the same thing for TSM.
Yeah.
So, like, you know,
no, for sure.
just as much
It's
fault on them, if not more. Like,
yeah, it's just more for comedic value than
Yeah.
anything. It's crazy to think a team like the Sonics is actually, technically speaking, the 6th best team in the world, at least from our last international event, and the NAL has just not clicked for them so far. But we've talked about that a decent bit today across most of the desks. So past that, the Sonics looking to see if they can possibly close things out in regulation, and it all starts here in library once again, wouldn't you know it? The drone's in to try and suss out Rexon's position. He's going to take some cannon fodder from the other side of the map, though. His Ego Balcony is also in play yet again, and, well, luckily enough for him, he'll be able to make his way away from this situation.
You gotta look for Rexon like hard committing the span, thinking someone was gonna peek him from the small window here in library just to get shot in the back from the literal opposite side of where he was expecting to.
Oh?
Not lucky for Rexon,
He's
but maybe
feisty today.
This is like the 3rd time he's potentially flirted with this hop out here. Wants to go for it again. There may be a possibility he lines someone up through that other window as well, but more than likely would have wanted that barricade open to actually take some shots through it. So probably won't see much transpire from it if he does go for the hop out. And meanwhile, SSG are moving along swimmingly with their clear, at least of the upstairs hold here, already managing to get that breach opening into office. They still need to clear out these players, of course, and get them in position to enter the site, but that may not be too far away here, with Fultz currently sitting just inches away from it, and a potential opening kill versus Super, too, if he can line up for it. He's got to be able to make the swing, though. Waits for it, and Super realizes that someone is here, so he returns fire, gets a large amount of damage out, just as he's able to take some on his own there. But at the same time, it's a great distraction to allow the second thermite charge to go out and open up access to the dining room.
Yes, indeed. But for the Soniqs, they still have so much denial in their pocket going down to this last minute. Echo with his drones as well as Kanza with his smokes can end a lot of what SSG potentially want to do with their plant spot. And you could say the same thing about Super. He's backed up and he'll be able to more than likely abuse these Evil Eyes going forward. He's playing so very close to Rampy at the current moment, although more than likely unbeknownst to him. Rampy, though, it's going to be trying to hold down to the back end while SSG pushes themselves forward. Bosco looking for a plant spot. Rampy finds Super inside of West Main. Kansan fires back, though, and now all of SQ on the board. It's down to a 3 versus 2. No one has case control as the SSG members were attempting to bully their way into the kitchen area.
No control, but as you can see here, they still have some positioning to fight for inside of the site. Rexon as well with a great read. Knows he's got someone lurking right around the corner. That's strike 1 here for SSG, and we're really playing a 2-strike game right now, so they're so close from being knocked out. Fultz left alone. He knows he's got a player directly on top of him, tries to bait it. It's so hard to do so, though, as you can see that animation immediately swings his aim down to the very bottom of his screen here. Has to try and go for it regardless, though. Has found a safe corner to at least attempt it. More than likely, oh man, we'll get the plan off, but never mind. Rexon swings down, denies it, and the Soniqs, ladies and gentlemen, will be your victor of today's match as they take it 7-4.
All smiles for the Soniqs camp after taking down Space Station Gaming. As of right now, before this match goes through, Space Station, the 4th highest rated team in the entirety of the NAL, but surely will not be in the standings after this. Congratulations to the Soniqs for getting a big win, even though it's a little later on into stage 1.
Yeah, no massive changes to the overall results, more than likely coming in for stage 1 of the Soniqs by taking that win, but it's a massive moral victory for them, as obviously we know they've been struggling a bit up until this week of play, and on top of that, they're building a great foundation for stages 2 and 3 as we look towards the summer and fall seasons as well. Here's the Soniqs continuing to look better and better, potentially returning to their old form when they were one of the best, if not the best teams out of this region going into SI.
Yes, indeed. If they can find their mark when it comes to their consistency again, which is something that we've been asking of them the entire stage, then honestly, I think that we have a ball game with any team that they go up against in the entirety of Rainbow Six. So it's nice to see them getting back to form, and I hope that it continues.
Especially with how they played it, too. Like we said, especially from the attacking side, most notably, situational awareness and intel play was second to none. Absolutely beautiful stuff coming out from the Soniqs, not giving SSG a single inch of their own defensive play to work out for them when they tried to swing things aggressively. So with that said, the Soniqs winning things out here, looking better and better. What does the future hold for them? Well, we'll have to wait and see, because like we said, unfortunately, probably not going to see a major run in the future for these guys, but SSG still have to fight for it, and we'll see just how close they are, as well as get a chance to talk to a member of the Soniqs when we come back from our break, ladies and gentlemen, in just a few minutes. Stick with us, and we'll be back with more of the NAL.
Welcome back to Rainbow Six NAL. Doa here, along with Jacob and our analyst, Pengu, taking a break from being analyst caster. And over in Las Vegas is none other than Super from Team Soniqs, getting their big win today over Spacestation Gaming. Super, can you hear me, man?
Yeah, I can hear you. How's it going?
Good, good. Hope you're doing well, too. I'd imagine you're doing a bit better after that win today. One thing that I've really enjoyed about watching the Soniqs lately is I feel like there's just a lot more confidence in the play. I feel like there's more aggressive moves being taken than we've seen in the past, and I'm kind of new here, so correct me if I'm wrong, but does the vibe in comms, does the vibe in terms of the confidence kind of feel like it's changed in the last couple maps compared to how things have been earlier in the stage?
Yeah, I mean, for our roster specifically, this has literally been the first time we've ever had a losing record. It'll be the first time we don't make a major. So, especially, you know, coming off I would say a really good performance at Invitational heading into the stage, we were obviously confident that we would place very high. I think, you know, all the predictions, all the fans thought we would as well.
Right.
So, you know, with the 2 games a week, the schedule's kind of very unforgiving if you start off slow. And, you know, we started off 0-4, and our vibes were definitely not to where they usually are because, honestly, as a team, we've never really learned to lose because we just don't lose that much. So that was kind of, I think, helpful long-term to actually struggle. And obviously, as you see, it's not like we're giving up. We're still trying to fix things and kind of band-aid it as we go until we have more of a break to, you know, make a collective effort to change a lot of stuff that we think are issues right now.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
So, kind of a follow-up question, Super. You guys obviously had a slow start. You said that yourself. Nobody expected you guys to be struggling or losing the way you have so far. Today you had a great game against Spacestation, you did. But there are rounds in particular where you managed to lose a 1 versus 2 against Fultz. And yesterday against OXG and Border, there were a couple of rounds where you guys weren't paying too much attention about the vertical play and you lost rounds because of it. Would you say that the comments are a bit cluttered, or is this something on your end as an IGL where there's just, you know, a struggle to find the opening, or there's a struggle to find the right approach in each and every single round?
I'll be honest with, like, Border, that's a map that, if I'm being honest, we kind of had stopped scrimming because we were trying to focus on our core maps once we saw, like, Oregon and Chalet were really struggling, which have been, like, Sonic staples. So, to be honest, we've been playing Border without scrimming it, so we're just rough because we're, you know, I'm, like, trying to call stuff in the game without actually having any strats.
Okay.
Obviously, that's kind of on us as well for just how our map pool is right now. But yeah, we've obviously identified, and it's something we're trying to work on and we'll continue to work on, how we do tend to throw advantages in rounds that, you know, we should win. Because honestly, I think we played better than OXG yesterday. We probably should have won that game. And even if you go back and look at the Dark Zero game that we had lost the week before, that's a game that I think at least should have gone into overtime. But we're just still working out the kinks in terms of, honestly, more than anything, it's just late round positioning, because if we have these advantages, theoretically, even if they do have vertical pressure or whatever it may be, if you're playing in positions to, like, trade each other, you'll win every time, because if you have more people and you always trade 1 for 1, they'll run out of people before you do.
I love that.
So obviously for us, it's something to focus on.
Okay.
Obviously not too much to focus on in the short term for you guys because there's not major possibilities down the line, but what's the main thing that you're going to focus on heading into this upcoming offseason period to focus up and try to get something going for stage 2?
Honestly, it's just our map pool. I think Because, you know, something I noticed is of the top 6 teams at Invitational, which was, you know, about 2 months ago today, 5 of them are already eliminated from the major. So I don't think it's an issue strictly to us. I think it's an issue to a lot of the teams that just, you know, for us last year, we didn't have breaks the entire year because we qualified for every tournament. We played at every tournament. We had a long run at Invitational. So after Invite, that's kind of our only opportunity where we took a longer break. So what we thought would happen was, okay, we know we have these core maps, so we'll take a, you know, 3 weeks, 4 weeks off, come back, and then we'll just scrim these new maps, but we'll still have Chalet, Oregon Club, Bank to fall back on. And obviously what ended up happening is the attacker repick and just the current meta being so aggressive hurt our core maps more than we thought. So then our map pool is just like really bad. And like I said, with the 2 games a week, the schedule's just pretty unforgiving if you start out bad or there are issues like that. So we're going along trying to band-aid everything, but these are small changes that we're trying to do rather than, you know, since we're not going to make the major, we're going to have a month, 2 months, whatever, maybe a month and a half, where we can really sit down, grind new strats, figure out the philosophy we want to play with, because obviously right now I think the meta is extremely aggressive, just all around the board, and go from there.
That makes sense. Yeah, so one more quick question before we let you go here. Now, in Vegas, before the stage began, we got a couple shots. So there's pictures out there of a throne being made for you to sit in that's made out of the other players on the team as well. I'm curious, do you ever just do that for fun once in a while at the team house? You know, maybe after a win today, are you going to make them build the throne for you or something?
Well, I have my own, like, sort of Game of Thrones style, but it's just off of all the tears of the fans that we upset over the years.
There you go.
So we freeze them. So it's kind of like just an ice throne that I like to sit on and just reflect on. You know, like today, for instance, you guys have me on this interview. Probably because I was dominating. I think I was 0-7. I had like 4 assists. Like,
yeah,
are you kidding me? Like,
it was a numbers
my God.
thing, yeah.
Like, no wonder I'm up here. Like, how do you not talk to me after a performance like that? So,
exactly,
yeah, I just like to reflect on, you know, the hundreds of thousands of millions of billions of kills I get. And, you know, it's hard to keep track sometimes, honestly.
Absolutely. Good place to tweet from, too, I've heard. But thanks for stopping by and chatting with us a little bit today. Congrats on the win. Looking forward to seeing you play next week, and then looking forward to seeing what Soniqs can bring next stage.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
You too. All right, there you go. Super with his throne of ice. Kind of a Lich King-esque a little bit in a way, but cool to see Soniqs, I think, bouncing back a little bit from where they were earlier in the stage. It's a fun team to watch. There's a lot of individual skill on that team, so cool to see, I think, like I said, the confidence coming back a bit more.
If I can, real quick, production, can we just throw up the predictions? Lower third, real quick, just so we have an idea of exactly what transpired in this game.
Yeah. We'll give you that. We need to look at some stats first.
Oh, come on.
We'll get to the moment. We'll let you
I wanted to
later,
gloat.
right?
I wanted to bask in this for a second, man.
You'll get your chance. Let's look at the stats here. It was a 7-4 victory for the Soniqs. Jacob, you know, you want to talk about this clearly.
I mean, no, obviously,
ahead.
yeah. I figured this was just a case of Soniqs being way better prepared for Chalet than Spacestation were. It wasn't necessarily down to something funky. It was down to the fundamentals. The first 2 rounds that we saw in this game were Spacestation trying to defend in a very similar way, like vertical take with a late flank somewhere in there, and it was a case where Soniqs dismantled that every single time. Look at this entry statistic. How many opening kills they got in this game. Obviously, there was a little bit like more of a shift as Super kept getting targeted when they were on defense, but for the first 6 rounds, all of the rounds on Soniqs attack were met with them finding the opening frag and SSG immediately put on the back foot. That is the thing that to me stands out the most on this stat sheet.
I fully agree. I mean, Super being the only opening dev for his team, being an anchor player on the bomb side, just speaks volumes to the roam game when Soniqs are on the defense and their entries when they're on the attack. And SSG, it's a slow start once again, but what do you know? They never really caught up this time around. And 2 of the 4 rounds that SSG managed to get was a 1 versus 2 clutch from Fulls. So Soniqs, if you look away from those 2 individual rounds, Soniqs actually looked really sharp this game.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I've heard we've got the predictions to look at now. I guess if
let me see this.
I don't see it as that
Give me my moment.
But it's really important to Jacob. So
give it to me.
You know, we'll give him that.
There we are. Thank you so much.
My numbers get worse.
Just wanted to bask just for a second. And honestly, like, this was a bit of a toss-up. Obviously, we've seen the streak that SSG have been on. We hyped up Skies in the pregame. We thought there was a good chance SSG were going to take this one, regardless of what the map pick was. But I do think when Parabellum defeated the Sonics on this map earlier, it felt like that was really in the midst of the Sonics tanking. I think it was like game 2 or something on this stage. And that was when everyone still has high expectations. They're getting doused in lighter fluid and set on fire. They didn't have a chance in that game against Parabellum, and instead, we've seen them kind of come back a little bit. If it's not for that Mirage win at the very beginning of the stage, and then their performance, like he mentioned, even on a map that they don't scrim on border yesterday, they still feel like there are some bits of the Sonics team that still linger beneath the surface. Honestly, to a certain extent, you know how TSM, they had to play all the way at the very last day of the 6th Invitational. Sonics got knocked out 2 days prior to that. It almost feels though, even though I think, I don't remember exactly when they left. I think they were there all the way through the end, but it's like they don't have that same stress, that same pressure on them to perform well all the way through, so they have a little bit more time to bounce back into things. And yeah, I think, does this also vault them above TSM in the standings?
I believe it
may.
I
think it just did.
We'll have to take a look at the standings a little bit later, but I think it does.
I believe it does for now, but TSM does have a game to play today as well, of course, which will end.
That is true. At momentarily, this puts Sonics 8th, TSM 9th, Mirage 10th. Oh boy.
I mean, it is, again, like it seems like it seems like a consolation prize, but those SI points could become handy later in the year. So if Sonics is able to get things together for stage 2, stage 3, have a much better performance there, it could end up, that 8th could end up making all the difference at the end of the year.
I know, I think so as well. It's good for them to actually get something at the very end of this year. In spite of like the Mirage win, sure, that's one thing. We saw the struggles that team had from earlier, but to get a win over Space Station, think about what this does to SSG now. They needed these points desperately. Look at what they might get vaulted over by Beast Coast if they were to win against Mirage in just a couple matchups from right now. So if I'm SSG, I am deeply concerned about this loss.
Absolutely. Well, let's look at part of what contributed to that. We're going to look at round 7, which was a really fun one actually, because this not only was a cool 4K, I believe, for Kenzen, but it was also a sign of Sonic showing us a little bit different defenses than we've seen before.
Look at this. Kenzen has just come down main stairs and killed 2 players who were hunting Yeti. He's been downstairs for the entirety of this round, and not only does Kenzen force them into a weird spot, he finds 2 kills in the back end of it. Later in this round, he goes back and rotates. Look at where he's at. He's at the bottom of your screen right there, playing Alibi. He's back in bar stock. It's the exact same round. Those 2 kills he gets initially then force SSG to make a call. They have to do something drastic with only 3 members left, and they decide the play, wise or not, is to try to vault into game's window in a second. Skies can go upstairs for a little bit of vertical cover in case there is somebody on the hatch. They want to see if they can't catch Kenzen in bar stock napping if possible. Here comes the call. Kenzen comes right up, finds 1 kill, down to the second, and then Skies is left alone on an island. All he can do is kill Super, and he's not in a position to get that refrag on Kenzen. Moments like that, split-second decisions from Kenzen Yukari, mean that you have to shift up your entire attacking strategy if you're SSG, and it's met by who at the end of the day? Kenzen, again. Great play all around.
Yeah, that's 2 great game days in a row for Kenzen, and also it really shows that Sonic still has something in their tank, because they were looking very, very small in the beginning of the season. They were looking at they lack confidence, they lack the structure to really go through these rounds, and now we're seeing both the structure getting better, the confidence getting better, and they found every single opening kill check of the first 6 rounds?
Every single opening kill on that attack went to SK.
And sure, it's Chalet attack. You're supposed to win the attacking rounds, but you're not meant to slaughter your opponents that hard on the attack.
Well, Space Station Gaming sweating in their spacesuits, which is not a place you really want to sweat a lot after that one. Meanwhile, Sonics, million miles an hour towards the win there. That was, a pretty fun match to watch. Sonics looking good. A team that has been more enjoyable to watch, I think, every round here coming up. But certainly, we are not done yet. Lots more to come here at Rainbow Six North American League today. Next up is going to be TSM versus Parabellum, 2 teams that have been eliminated from making it to the major, but again, you still want to try to secure as many SI points as possible, and there's always that little thing called pride on the line as well, so don't miss it. Should be a good map. Either way, we'll be back in just a few here on R6 NAL.